We do have quorum and we're a little over time, so our first order of business is our governance meeting. Do we have do we have any minutes from the last governance meeting?
They were approved as part of the.
Oh, the next, okay, the meeting after.
Because it is a committee of the board, it was approved at next board meeting.
Right, okay. And because we do not have our council with us this morning, Duncan is going to be doing the two items, refresher training for Jacob. And I guess there's some other legal issues that we want to cover. So Duncan.
Bob has a family matter he had to attend to this morning, so he just texted me and indicated he's not going to be attending. He and I had spoken about what we need to go over today. The first thing is that every 3 years there has to be a refresher course issued to the board members. The anniversary date is the 20th of May. So sometime in this spring, late winter, early spring, we need to schedule a course. It can be done in person. It can also be done by Zoom link. We have the ability to do it in-house. Council will participate. We found in the past it can be accomplished in less than an hour because they have an abridged version, which applies to those people who are members of boards that are not-for-profit or unpaid volunteers with no per diems. This board qualifies. And the only exception to this would be anyone who under their full-time employment, I think might apply to you, some of them, you may already be covered through the training that you received through your office. Otherwise, you're welcome to participate.
Last year. Did I just, or I
think that was the ABO.
Yeah.
But this is separate from ABO. This is on the JACO.
Nothing but a high.
Did we do this as a group last time already?
Yes, we did. It was done in, I think it was April of 19 was the last time. So we did it in advance of the anniversary, which is the 20th of May.
Yeah, are you covered?
And I think I need the training.
And that was my
Personal requirement.
Let's check with you.
I'll be leading the training. That should give everybody pause. Good morning, Megan. How are you?
Good morning, everybody. I'm well, thanks. How's everyone?
Well, thank you. We're in the governance and just talking about JCO refresher before we expire on May 20th, 22. So I guess maybe give people some options, Duncan?
No, that's what I thought I'd do is we'll try to find some times, put them out there. I've got to check with council what his availability is, and then we'll put out some times. And, Megan, the other thing that we can do this time is do it by Zoom, which would be more convenient for everyone. Hopefully for you as well, Michael.
Okay.
The next item on the JCOP agenda had to do with the annual meeting. There'll be a policy restatement process. We have existing policies for disposition of property and other management, real estate, et cetera. Board evaluations will be handed out and due for the annual meeting. There's an ABO fiduciary statement, the ACCA independence form. Each of those has to be signed every year. And at that board meeting, you'll be receiving a recommendation from the EI committee for the fee determination. Now, the fee determination will be metric-based this year for the first time. We've set aside through the amended and renewed operator agreement, we've set aside those subjective determinations that were used in the past. The process has been reviewed with the committee the other day. Our council prepared a memo. The memo has been shared with ASM. And we're going to, through a couple of steps before the end of the year, test the process. Even if we don't have all the complete information, we're going to test it against the metrics and make sure that everybody has an understanding. So come January, it should be a pretty efficient process. ASM presents to the EI committee. EI committee makes a recommendation to the board. And then if a fee is due, it'll be easily determined because it'll be based on metrics. Those were the two items. I'm sorry.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. That's okay. Yeah. No, we're ASM is very good with that. Thank you.
Those were the items that we wanted to cover to meet the obligation of having a second governance committee each year.
Okay. Any other business to come before the governance committee? Then can I have a motion to adjourn, please? Okay, Steve and Sam. Thank you. Okay, now, on to our regular agenda of the board meeting. Duncan, we're all good, and you know who's here, right?
Right.
I don't need a roll call necessarily. So we have 2 minutes to approve or review on the 9/23 Audit and Finance Committee meeting and the 9/23 special budget meeting, which are in your packets.
You're behind the agenda for the meeting, you're under tab 2.
I don't have counsel to say, can we take these together or separately?
You can have one motion. They were both minutes apply to the same meeting.
Okay. All right, may
I'll motion to approve both sets of minutes.
okay, second, any further discussion on the minutes? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Yes, who gave the second? I'm sorry. I didn't. Sure, thank you.
Okay, Steve and Meredith, can we go through the treasurer's report?
Certainly. Good morning. And, I think I'll just,
It's tab 3, by the way.
Pardon me?
Tab 3.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
for right to Meredith on this.
I appreciate Duncan's enlargement of the financials for everybody.
I thought he just did it for me. Because he handed me these 2 sheets. of
Great.
water.
So good morning, board members. These are the financial statements for Albany Convention Center Authority as of September 30th, 2021. Starting with the statement of net position, cash continues very strong with cash and cash equivalents of $3,167,417. Albany Capital Center receivables for $280,634. Other current assets, $1,049,892, bringing total current assets to $4,497,943. Fixed assets remain static at $917,571, giving total assets of $76,415,513. Moving on to liabilities and equity, the Albany Capital Center payables were $92,371. Total other current liabilities, $1,169,586, bringing total liabilities to $1,261,957. Total liabilities and equity, $76,415,513. Moving on to the statement of revenue, expense, and change in net position. I just want to bring your attention to the header. I apologize, there was an error in the header. I should have caught that. The fourth column in where it says January, August 21, that should read September. That is January, year-to-date, January to September. For the Albany Capital Center, they had income for the month of September of $73,739. Year-to-date, the income was $283,916. That represents about 42% of the total budget. Total expenditures, and again, there is an error on this line as well. Total expense, where you see it says -101, it should be the line above it, 175,576. I have these, yeah, the loss is 101,837. The total expenses were 175,576.
So the management fee is 7,500.
Right. They're already corrected. I'll send that updated to Duncan. For year-to-date, the loss was $1,266,211, which is a little over 100% of the budgeted loss. Moving on to the Convention Center Authority, total operating revenue for September was $175,210. Year-to-date, it was $2,242,512. There was an extraordinary item in there of $627,703, which is that shuttered venue operators grant that was received over the summer in August. So that represents 144% of the budget on the income side. On the expense side, the loss or the total expenses for the month of September were $242,207. The total expenses year to date are $2,130,421. That represents 107% of the budget. So the total loss for September was $66,997. Year to date, the gain, the profit is $112,091, which is, not projected because of that shuttered venue operators grant. So total ACC and the Capitol Center and the Convention Center combined is a loss for September of $168,834. Year-to-date loss of $1,154,120. That is 68.89% of the budget. So the shuttered venue operators grant really was sort of the boost that they needed over the summer to get that budget back in line. Any questions?
I have a question, Karen.
Sure.
That shuttered venue grant,
Yes.
I know that you were one of the only, if not the only, convention center to stay open during the pandemic. Is that a positive to us in the amount of money that we received, or was it a blanket across the board type of grant? Similarly situated some convention centers.
Well, the grant had specific things we were qualified to apply for. It wasn't, it called shuttered venue. That implies that the only venues that would be eligible would be those that were absolutely closed. But what the grant took into account is loss of revenue. So even though you were open, it looked at the differential between the revenue projected, what you would have had for those events canceled. Taking into account that revenue lost, it also allowed for some capital improvements, which we've included in that. So while we experienced a greater than anticipated operational loss during that period of time, we still continued to get some revenue, sporting events being an example of that. So the shuttered venue, I guess it was just a collective name, an easy name for it, but in fact, it looked at venues that were open, at least in some capacity. And that money was a difference in income. That's why the numbers at the end are starting to look better than they would have otherwise, because it's a makeup payment to some extent.
So were you all satisfied with the number that came back based upon our application?
We were surprised by the number that came back. We thought it might be as low as 215,000. We were eligible for a little over 700,000. We ended up just under 700,000. Okay. So we were very pleased. And I have to compliment ASM. They went through a great deal of detail, a number of submissions. Shannon, 3 or 4 submissions?
At least, and then probably a couple more after that.
Yeah,
little documents here and there. It was a process, sort of like GBOC, a lot of different layers, a lot of different things to go through, but,
And we're in the process of satisfying the last requirements of it. I think we're down to explaining about $28,000, which we feel between a number of projects we've taken on is easily done. And it is a grant, so there's no future liability.
Great, thank you for the explanation.
The other thing I would mention with respect to the accounting, please understand that the hotel tax distribution for Q3 was received in October, therefore it's not reflected in these documents. That's additional money. That money was deposited in the capital improvement account and also in the checking account, so it's ready for the end of year payment that the first quarter of next year payment that we'll be making before the end of the year.
Will we close?
I sent some information out. We're running pretty close. We're about 76%.
Other discussion questions about the treasurer's report? Great. We're on to economic impact.
Can you bring up number 6, please?
Ray, you're up.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Joe Delaney, President of Scarborough, Albany, presenting the economic impact report for the third quarter of 2021. On the next slide, you can see the mission statement, the reporting methodology that we continue to use. It's always a good reminder to let everybody know that there is a fair bit of behind the scenes work done to make sure that we're bringing in all the data that we can to make sure we track all the economic impact that does take place in the region with this building. On the next slide, we can see the direct spending totals by category in a bar chart. It was wonderful to see the convention column back in existence for 2021. 3 conventions were hosted in the quarter for just under $250,000 in that impact. Again, if you look at that tall pillar of sports, the 4 events and the $500,000 of direct spending certainly is really where the activity and the vitality is right now in the marketplace. I think that can be stated for the general region as well. Sports has ruled the roost for many, many of our properties. There were a smattering of other programs, 9 meetings, 2 public shows, 8 social events, and a trade show. So it was a nice broad spectrum. So there's some life in all of those segments. So we're looking for some recovery at some point in time. On the next slide, we just hit the third quarter highlights. First time museum style event, the Michelangelo event was one of the highlights. The return of conventions, the Northeast Regional Auto Recyclers event, and others. Just nice to see that that's taking place again, albeit with somewhat modest return to attendance and slightly different state patterns than traditionally known. And then again, the sports market still driving that. On the next slide, we can see some third quarter economic indicators, growth and performance. Total spending just over $1 million. Total sales tax $117,000. Total visitors generated 1,607.44. Hotel room nights generated 2,511. Total events 27. Full-time equivalents 22. A lot of the meetings on the bar chart were very small, somewhat similar to this type of meeting. Again, getting people in the building is always important, making sure that people are working. So it's not involved for housekeepers to work. On the next slide, we can see third quarter 2020 to third quarter 2021. And again, if we think back to 2020, there were no conventions in the third quarter of 2020. So all the growth for this year is in the red. We had a smattering of meetings in the third quarter of 2020 in that blue column under the meetings. But really the building was quiet in the third quarter of last year. So there's growth there. Moving to the next slide, year-to-date comparison 2020 to 2021. This tells a different story. The convention column in the blue for 2020 reminds us that there was a robust year ahead of us prior to the pandemic striking. We had $2.6 million in convention sales, convention impact in 2020, and all of that was in January, February, and 2 weeks in March. So there is room for growth. There is hope. Just remember what 2020 was supposed to look like. That's that little whisper. It was going to be good, and unfortunately,
It was gonna be epic.
it was going to be.
I like that.
It was gonna be
And it was.
It was in a different way.
Occupancy and RevPAR, both for January and February in 2020, were trending above 2019, which was a historically good year. Unfortunately, at that point, that's when the good news stopped. And again, I think we look at that sports column, the red sports column, definitely highlights the fact that that is where, Vitality has lived in the current club. Following the final slide, or as the slide we refer to as the life of the building, it's kind of an accumulation of the impact year over year, month after month. Total spending, $54,694,307 in economic impact generated from this building for the community. Total sales tax, 6.3 million. Total visitors generated 350,200. I think, we all see that there's possibility, and we're all working towards getting back to that. If there are any questions for this report.
Could you bring up number 7, please?
We did do a little review / forward look for the market, do an occupancy and a RevPAR review. RevPAR is revenue per available room. If you look at the next slide, this chart in the orange is 2019, a historically wonderful year of occupancy. And then the yellow line obviously is the impact of COVID-19. And the green line, as you can see, is this year. And until September, we beat, we're getting better and better and better. Occupancy was growing and growing and growing. We are trending nicely with the pattern for 2019. There is a gap. Obviously, we're not back to where we were, but we are traveling along the right trend. And as hotels get smarter and as business travelers decide to travel again, we're hopeful that gap will close between today's occupancy and 2019. On the next slide, it's revenue per available room. And to me, I see that chart, and that green line says we were very, very close to approaching August 2019 numbers. Anecdotally, you speak to other destinations, they exceeded their 2019 numbers. Those were primarily leisure destinations where demand for leisure family travel was just off the chart. We still did well. And again, we're trending the way 2019 trended. So we think just a little bit of hard work, a little bit of savvy from our hotel salespeople and our business travelers making decisions to travel again. We will begin to close that gap once again.
I think these 2 slides are so important, and I encourage people to share them because it shows that we're on the right track for sure.
Oh, there definitely is life. And it's funny, I was at a meeting the other day, and one of the head guy from IHG said that there was more business travel going on than you think. It's all leisure, but believe me, there's a lot of business being done on leisure trips, because at the end of the day, they categorize it as a leisure trip or a business trip. And leisure is really, really strong. But, for people that are going to go away for Thanksgiving vacation and visit with family, the thought is they may spend an extra day or two and they'll do some business in that, but it's categorized as leisure. And there's a fair business is still going on. I mean, I think that slide that's exactly what we see. We're in a far better spot than we were a year ago. I don't say we're exactly where we want to be yet, but we're certainly moving in the right direction, I think.
And then the final slide is a snapshot from a report we received from Destinations International. And this is our international association to as a destination management organization.
This is the one that concerns me.
This is the one that
All of
this is the one that I think anecdotally we've been feeling it. I know our organization has felt it. We have had a very aggressive trade show schedule from July until the first week in December. We will be traveling quite a bit, meeting face-to-face with meeting planners. Those meetings tell this story. So the blue line is total number of leads for 2019, and it's a calendar week by week by week. The concern was in the 37th week, mid-September, leads fell to the lowest levels since March of 2021. That tells us that fear does ripple through the marketplace. Fear does ripple through those decision makers' offices. Do we plan? Do we not plan? The lead generation is slowly scaling back, but the gap is painfully obvious. And I think we're all just very careful about how we communicate with our meeting planners so that when there is opportunity, that mutual call is made so that we're at least engaged.
Jay, how does this compare regionally and nationally?
So this is a national report, so we didn't, we haven't looked at 2019, compared it to what we're doing now with the Convention Visitors Bureau. Mostly because I haven't been asked to, but I'm also pretty sure that it tracks almost
It's very consistent with our statewide partners. I feel like the same thing. Business leads, if not leisure leads, right? That's what we're talking about, and that's the differentiator right now. And I know many of us serve on various not-for-profit boards. We have those discussions internally on all those boards. Do you hold a meeting? They're hemming and hawing about what's the right thing to do. They want to hold a meeting. Is it the right time to do it? So you know why, but it doesn't make it easier to deal with on our end.
And anecdotally, we're seeing the same thing through ASM. I mean, we review these every week and we send that report out to the chair on the sales activity. And the sales activity is following this type of graph with a significant gap and these drop-offs. And then the hesitation on the part of so many people. I mean, you have many more leads for 22, and many of those are still very much in planning.
Yep.
Because no one will commit even to a window.
Yeah. And a lot of times too, even for the future years, people are saying, okay, well, we're just going to start the process and see what it looks like. So it isn't even like we're doing a meeting for 2022. This is what we're going to do. And can you price it out? We need to take a look at it and then discuss as a board if it's something we can do. So the verbiage has changed even in our selling efforts. And, it's been changing so much dramatically over the last 18 months, but now specifically that meeting the convention industry is probably the slowest to get back to it.
One good thing though, and you mentioned not-for-profits, and they have seen, I think, and you can both speak to this, but the numbers have been higher for each one of the not-for-profit events here, where they might have projected, 400, they ended up at 490 in one case. They projected 365 in another, they were over 400 in another. The chamber dinner exceeded its expectations significantly. Not that that's true not-for-profit in the same way, but the return on the silent auctions has been very good and positive. That's coming back. So people are anxious to get back out again, and it's been a fairly healthy environment for the not-for-profits, those that have decided.
Yeah, right. Well, an essay is a good example.
Yeah.
I'm on that board, so I know both sides of it.
Mhm.
We actually, as an organization, it's the Empire State Society Association Executives, so the Association for Associations, if you will. And that group holds a lot of in-person events, obviously. They, budget-wise, did just fine holding everything virtually because most of their cost is in the in-person events. And so they ended up slightly ahead with virtual. But the discussion was, of course, people want to be together. They want to be in person. So we held our annual conference here in person. And while, of course, the numbers were lower than they typically would be, the general sense from attendees was, this is what we want. We want to be back here. We liked it. We felt safe. So, that's a good place to start because you're getting the leaders of the associations to see that you can do it and it can be done safely. So, that's our way of controlling that message, is demonstrating it really.
Is there a tendency of you seeing more hybrid requests?
Well, I can answer that.
I can take it. I've actually seen less and less, to be quite honest with you. I see. Yeah, and there are, because you really have to plan almost two different shows at the same time. You have to entertain a virtual audience and entertain an in-person audience. Sometimes staffing does not allow for that. Staffing has decreased in associations so much that, if one person or two people are doing it, you really can't facilitate something like that. but I've seen it shift actually more to one side or the other. We're either gonna do it all in person and that's what it's gonna be, or we're gonna do it all virtually and that's what it's gonna be. I've seen more of a 50-50 split on that, to be fair, but I have seen an uptick in non-for-profits wanting to live stream their events. And it's a way for them to continue to gain some additional revenue. They've kind of caught on to that hybrid method. But for them, it's a little bit more easier because it's a 3-hour dinner or 3-hour lunch. You stream it, you can have people still join and participate. It's a little bit of an easier lift financially for a social event to do that streaming, or a non-for-profit to do it, then do it for a whole day with an exhibit and all that other stuff. So I have seen an uptick on the non-for-profits taking up on that.
And the authority,
DI, the Destinations International, we had an in-person convention, but it was hybrid. So I went to Baltimore for in-person, just like I think the 1 week where you didn't have to wear masks in the city of Baltimore. And everybody who I knew who was participating at virtually said it was terrible.
Yeah.
Like the in-person was fantastic. It wasn't what it was in prior years, but the hybrid, it didn't work even for the organization that does this. Like this is what we do, right? So I think a lot of the lean, and you may have heard this too, is to separate the two altogether.
Yeah.
Have your in-person, record a lot of the sessions, and then offer a different experience for those who didn't attend after the fact, so your staff are not trying to do two things at once.
two things that affect the authority indirectly, they affect ASM and this facility, is that you have a reduced revenue because less F&B, less food and beverage associated with virtual events. But very importantly, the full-time equivalent job numbers are significantly lower because there isn't the staffing requirements. So, among the different portions or items within the mission statement of this authority is to generate full-time equivalent and full-time jobs, particularly for residents of the city and those for whom perhaps a living wage is not possible without a second job, the type of opportunity that a facility like this provides. So when we start seeing those numbers, and I think Jay reported for the quarter being 27 full-time equivalent jobs, that's a low number. And that's associated directly with the number of virtual or hybrid events that require such a lower staff number.
Any questions, more questions for Jay? Joe? Okay, moving along.
Could you bring up item number 8, please?
Closing that gap.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, 5.
Literally. All right, good morning, everybody. We'll jump right into it. I'm going to go to the next slide. Since we last met, and since Q3's report, we had an additional 12 events contract. I did some highlights below just to kind of see some of the bigger ones that are coming through. Really good sub numbers. We do have a good amount of concerts coming through as well. And I'll just highlight Gojira as a good example. That concert was actually supposed to be with Upstate Concert Hall. They sold so well that we were called to be asked as an alternative location for them because they outgrew that facility, can only hold about 1,000 people. So with ticket sales for them being over 2,000 and now today we're at 26 and change, that concert has outgrown that space. So you'll see a decent amount of concerts coming through. We have a small board meeting that is going to come through from New York State Architectural Institute, a fashion show, and actually our first triple threat athletics cheer and dance event. We've actually never had a cheer show here since we've been open. So it's a little bit smaller, but I put it on there because we're all kind of excited to venture into the cheer and dance world.
A very good market.
Yeah, it's a very, very good market, and it'll be a good opportunity for us to kind of test it out and see how it works in our building. So
Where do you categorize the concerts? And I want to stress that those concerts are not fixed seat concerts.
Correct, yeah. All the concerts listed here are all general admission. And they all are in a precarious number where they're either too small for the Times Union Center or too big for Upstate Concert Hall. So we are really a good niche fit for some of these concerts and a perfect niche fit for anyone that wants to do general admission.
But on the bar graph that Discover Albany puts together,
yeah,
where are they categorized? Social?
Public? I don't know what you categorize our concerts as. Yeah, 2 weeks ago, we had.
Right.
But not
Yeah.
recorded on here.
Yeah. I feel.
Where would you like them?
These haven't been recorded.
I categorize them under public. That's how we put them under, because it's a ticketed event.
I will go back to the last
Yeah.
one that was hosted,
Okay,
Okay, that's how.
and then we'll have a discussion.
Sure.
And then if a discussion is made that we should categorize it differently than we did before.
Right,
I
but
think we had
it's
that conversation, just don't remember it.
yeah, that's all right. It's all
kind
right.
of robust and so, you know, it
Yeah.
shouldn't make us like something.
Yeah, for sure, definitely. Okay, so that actually brings us to 166 events for the year, and a whopping 292 days, which I think is unbelievable. When we're really taking back and looking at the year, the fact that we've been able to operate 292 event days is great. With that, estimated guests are at 62,536. Hotel room nights are a little over 10,000. And we have additional 2 contracts out there. I think we'll end up picking up 1 or 2 more by the end of the year. And if I really squeeze my sales team, maybe we'll get a couple more. But, very, very happy with the numbers that we're at right now for this year. I hate talking about canceled events, but we'll go through it. We're at a total of 55 canceled events, 102 event days associated with those. They are a mixed, variety of what's canceled. The majority has been meetings and social events. They run at the top, but we've also had a few public shows, like the ski show did cancel with us this year, and a couple of others. So it is a good mix of people who have decided not to move forward.
Hey, Shannon, can I ask a question? It's Megan on Zoom.
Sure, go ahead, Megan.
Of the numbers that were canceled, how many would you estimate have been made up for with these other events? I mean, those numbers of meeting days during 2021 is really strong.
Yeah, so I would say, we've done a really good job of filling the gap, as Michelle just mentioned. I would say, the stuff that we filled with hasn't been as profitable as what we've lost. I will definitely say that, but we've done a really good job of filling the gaps. November has been a tough time frame for us to fill, just because the cancellations came so close to the end of the year. And, it's been a little bit of a hustle for us to fill our November calendars that have canceled. But I say for the most part, we've done the best job that we can to fill the gaps in. And I feel good about the programs that we've gone through. They just are not as profitable as the ones that had canceled on us, if that makes sense.
It does. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so if you want to move on to 2022, we've had an additional 5 contracts since the last time we met. The first one, American Heart Association, their Heart Ball. We've never hosted that not-for-profit gala before. They lost their date in Saratoga, so they were very interested in coming to us. We do another gala with them every single year, so it's nice to have them come back twice. The New York State Bar Exam, I'm personally thrilled about. I was telling the EI committee that was one of the events that I thought was going to not come back to a in-person event, because I figured, it's a test, everyone can take it virtually. And we got a call from them and said they had the highest pass rate possible over the last year. So they're pretty desperate to come back to in-person. So that's kind of a fun story.
Monitor.
Yeah, they need to definitely up their monitoring. Yes, yeah. So we're really, really excited to have them back on board. It's actually a great event for us, and it's a great event for the destination. So I think that's a win-win that's coming back online. We do have dates on hold for them for July as well. And I think they're going to see how this February goes and then make their decision after that. We did pick up a great bat mitzvah piece, a Jazz in July event, which is another social event, and a small annual meeting is coming back to us for October of next year as well. So with all of that, we have a total of 42 events, 73 event days, 23,680 people, and a little over 6,000 hotel room nights. We do have a very large number of additional contracts out there at 27. We have seen a little bit of a halt again on people committing and getting the paperwork back in, but our team's working really, really hard on very politely following up with everybody to see if we can get things committed and in the books. So the last thing on this slide really kind of echoes everything that we've really, or Jay and Discover Albany has been saying. Obviously leads for meetings and the conventions that we all love and are used to are down. And then the leads for ASM, we've had quite a few, but quite a few that's had been displaced just due to lack of availability. And on my side, you're looking at everything from smaller meetings to birthday parties, social, sporting, weddings, even some religious gatherings, and lots and lots and lots of concerts. I was telling the EI committee last Friday, we actually had 6 different promoters call for different shows on concert dates. So that market continues to be a big push for this area. It's very strong. Okay, so we'll move forward to the charts. First one, just as an outlook of 2021, really showing you where we're at. We have exceeded ASM's budget of 163 events. So I'm very proud of that. You know, looking at these 2 categories between the blue and the yellow, the blue being, you know, what we thought we were going to do for this year, and the yellow actually what has happened, you see a really, really big juxtaposition almost on every single category. So, you know, while it was hard for us to have that crystal ball in the beginning of the year, you really can see where we've balanced things out, balanced the puzzle out. For 2022, ASM has finally set our budgeted goals. So I have some numbers to help us compare where we're at finally. Blue obviously being what we're projecting for 2022 and yellow being where we're at right now. Keeping in mind that we have hopefully another 27 contracts on the books. Some of these categories definitely are going to start to fill out. We have a lot of social events, you know, that are finally coming through, finally picking dates, finally committing to stuff. And we're definitely working with several meetings as well. So I think you'll start to see some of those categories grow within the next month. And then unless anyone has any questions on the event stuff, we will go to the new website that we've created. And Evan, if you want to just surf around a little bit, just so people can see some different areas, go to the event page, and then we can kind of land on the ACC page at the top. But our team has been working really hard on recreating a very slick, very easy, on the eyes website. I think we've done a really good job. We're definitely still in tweaking mode, and we're definitely still learning a little bit about the backside of what we can do. But as you can see, it's almost night and day from the website that we started with. And the website we started with was perfect for, you know, when we were getting going. But now that we're in the toddler phase or young adult or young child phase, you know, we needed to beef it up a little bit, add some different content, some great pictures, you know, really add some flavor to a lot of what we did. Evan, if you want to go to the ACC page specifically, this features your nice new logo that I think stands out really, really well with the mission statement. I know Duncan has been also working with Baker PR and our team to make some tweaks and changes. And I know he's mentioned he's gotten a lot of your bios and headshots to get ready for the page. So definitely still a little bit of work in progress. I would say within the next week, we should be able to really make a good announcement that we're live, and we've got this really great new resource for us. But it's definitely much more user-friendly, and I think it's definitely a little bit more eye-catching than what we've had prior.
Are they gonna change the digital sign on the building to coincide with the new logo?
I keep confusing the ACCA.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
It's, you know, one's with A, one's without.
Yeah, you got it. You know, one of the things that we're working with on our side too, we're changing the flags that are all on the outside of the building. And I've spoken with Duncan, we're gonna add the new authority logo to those. So that'll be really, really great visibility for you guys too. I should have markups of that within the next week.
Evan, if you could leave it on that page for just a second, just to add to what Jan said. And this is important to hear this feedback, Steve. Thank you, appreciate it, because this is a test and everything is being tweaked. We chose this picture and suggested it to Baker and then I've given it to ASM because it has the facility, it has the facility logo, it features the convention center, adds in the branding statement, not the mission statement, the branding statement.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
You know, and shows this level of activity we thought it captured an awful lot. But if that's not the type of reaction, if you think we need to go, we want to hear that type of feedback. So we haven't sent this out to the board yet, only because there are so many other things to look at the same time. We want to try to give you a package so you don't have to keep looking at it. But this was our lead page because we felt that it said a great deal without.
We're getting close.
Okay.
We're getting close.
Yeah, the good thing is that little tweaks here and there and little adjustments are much easier this time around. That was one of the goals of going with this new system. We had a lot of limitations on the last website of what our team was able to change and tweak sort of on the fly. So we're able to make a lot more back-end changes, highlight.
That's the important thing. You can do it in-house.
Yeah, we can do it in-house. We don't have to pay for, a web person to take care of it for us. Our marketing team has been completely trained, and Baker PR is going to be trained as well. And we're definitely going to be able to really kind of even customize and highlight things like, Gojira coming this weekend or concert coming this weekend. We'll be able to highlight that on our page and make it easy for people to purchase tickets, and just gives us a lot more flexibility with what we can do.
And the last page, could you pull up the EI page if you go to the ACCA? And you go to economic impact. And then scroll down if you could, please. Keep going if you could.
There you go.
That and the next graphic below it. So we're starting to tie the graphics in with the logo, the colors of the logo, tie it in. And those are the numbers, the current numbers. Again, work in progress.
Yeah.
That's essentially the second page you come to in terms of order. You come to the overview page and then bang right to the economic impact. So we reordered the pages so that this is up ahead of some of the things that we have to store, all those meeting minutes and notices and things like that. Pardon me.
Okay. Good. Any questions?
Yes.
Okay.
Thanks, guys. Keep up the good work.
And we went through any legal issues, yes?
Yeah, I just had a couple operations updates.
Okay.
Good. Shannon led with the website, so that's off my list. That's great. Thank you. If you could bring up item 9, please. We've issued the meeting schedule. If there's any additional feedback, I can change this. Otherwise, this will be the meeting schedule that we're going to publish and put out. So if there's any final comment, we'd like to hear it if we could this week. We can make that plan. And then on my list, I wanted the board to know that the needlepoint ionization system was tested and certified by the engineer of record this past 2 weeks ago. The test results exceeded the design minimums, which is very good. In all areas, significantly exceeded it. So we're pleased that it's working. ASM personnel have been trained in maintenance, and it's already scheduled. So I think that it's been a good handoff. Worked very well.
And we did get on the business page, the Times Union yesterday.
Yes, lower right-hand corner of the business got a nice little write-up. And of course, ASM is putting out, through BPR, Baker Public Relations, put a press release on Monday, and it's been picked up on social media and others as well. That's good. And then the last thing had to do with, 2 things rather, market study update. Michelle, do you want to speak to that or?
No, I will let you do that.
Okay. I mean, we've had regular meetings.
We have regular meetings about every week.
With HVS. And some of the board members have contributed and helped,
Yes.
Mike in particular, information that's been necessary. We've given them people to interview. The people have all been very, very helpful. In some case, hoteliers, in other case, business people. Matt Peter from the parking authority has been extremely helpful. So it's been a very good working relationship. I think the information is coming together well. They still anticipate completing on time, which would be before you folks meet again. It'd be before the end of the year. And I think that, they don't have any conclusions at this point in time, but I think if gathered enough information, they're going to be able to come to some sort of an indication of what we should do or consider.
Right. And Sarah, have we spoken with you? I can't remember. Because the information that came out this week, and it was specific to parking, really focuses on the importance of Liberty Park and that project and what a difference it will obviously make in the whole downtown landscape for service, for parking, for all of that. So I think that might be a good call for them to make too, Sarah, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I spoke with Matt, and to that point, we've emphasized, in fact, there's a memo that's going out to them today summarizing some of the information they've asked us to gather. And, it's very clear that that area is considered proximate parking to the Times Union Center. It's been proven year over year with the surface parking that's there. So if there was a parking structure there, it could certainly service the Times Union Center and this being close enough, as opposed to some of the more remote facilities that would require a shuttle system.
Well, I think also whatever Liberty Park is going to look like, I mean, it could look very different than a parking structure. It could be a parking structure that would service that project or whatever's going on there too.
Well, the goal of having a mixed-use destination as well also helps service facility and the additional retail, restaurant, entertainment options for visitors to the facility that is within walking distance, that we have proximate parking located as well. So we are definitely looking forward to that being a contributing part of downtown.
And it was very clear to me when I read through the parking stuff this week that was important information for them to have.
Last time I had was end of year preparation. We're going to be discussing with Meredith and Amy, having a pre-audit meeting with UHY, as we usually do. ASM is preparing the metric-based information for review by the EI committee, but in addition, reviewed by Meredith and Amy, even using estimates through the end of the year, just so we can test this whole process. The healthcare is in place. NISHIP has been canceled. The savings are accumulating. So that's all behind us. Cards have been issued and everything's in place at this time. That completes my operations update. Unless any questions.
Any other business you'd like to?
I just would like to add one thing, just off of the ionization project. I want to let the board know how much we appreciate the investment in that. And I want to let you know that it's started to go much further than, just installing an upgraded system. Because we've done a good job of communicating what we have been doing through this whole process. People know the air quality, people know the cleaning procedures that we have in this building, and conversations are going to, we know we want to come to your building because we all feel safe being there. And I want to make sure that's communicated to the board. People feel very safe and comfortable being here during this COVID time. And not every facility and not every place has been able to upgrade systems like we have. So it definitely, I wanted to thank the board and definitely tell them it's definitely been a benefit to us for business for sure.
Okay, if there's no further business to come before the board, may I have a motion to adjourn, please?
Motion.
Thank you, Dan. Mike, thank you. Thank you all, and Mike and Megan, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you for accommodating me. Bye now.
Okay.
Bye.